Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the SITREP, the situation report from the Levant. Mainly we are focusing on Syria and Iraq for now. And in Syria, so give you some context into what's happening. Erdogan has iterated that he needs that 30 kilometers safe zone from the border within North Syria, away from the Kurds. So they say that the Kurdish forces must withdraw to a distance of 30 kilometers from the border, especially for the security zone that was created by the Turkish troops in 2019. If not, they will threaten to conduct a new ground operation in Northern Syria. So if this is the border, you can kind of tell that 30 kilometers is around here. And the Kurdish forces, which is in yellow, in yellowish color, is totally not above 30 kilometers, not beyond 30 kilometers, especially not in this area here. And even for this area, that is the Peace Spring operation that was launched around 2 years ago. This is 30 kilometers, as you can tell. This was the military objective, and they try to keep the 30 kilometers, but it was only this portion. There's still a lot of the border that is actually not having this border. So the Turkish have already launched their some kind of military operation since November, mid-November, and in the turn of the month, in around 1st to 2nd December, Turkish forces have intensified the shelling of the SDF settlements in northern Allepo. Allepo is here, El Raqqa and El Hasaka. So El Raqqa, I believe, is I can't remember where is it. I'm still not so versed with the geography just yet. El Raqqa there's El Ain. So anyway, the El Hasaka is this region. This entire region is El Hasaka. So they have bombarded some area here and as well as some area here in northern Allepo. So as you can see, there's a few of these icons going here. The yellow one is actually bombardment by the SDF. They actually bombarded Turkish military base at Kafan Jena, Turkish base in Azaz city, as well as at Dabik. These are all either in reaction or they launch and then Turkish launch fire shelling in reaction. So the Turkish actually shelled Daya Jamal, Shak Isa, as well as Herbil. So you can see that there is some bombardment across the area, and this area is very interesting. This is actually not exactly just the Kurdish forces. It's actually the SDF, which is the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is a combination of various minorities groups within Syria, but with the huge majority actually the Kurds. Not just minority, but maybe some majority as well, which is all part of the SDF. But the main force is actually the Kurds. But this zone is actually the joint zone. So for those that are not aware, the Syrian the Syrian government has already kind of make peace with the SDF, and they actually join control this region. But you see the white region is actually purely only the Syrian army, the Syrian government forces. So in this area, however, north of Allepo, is actually a mix of the SDF and the Syrian forces. And however, the one that the shelling was all conducted by the SDF, and Turkish in reaction shelled the SDF positions. And over here at Hazwan, Hazwan is actually in the northeast of Allepo. There is fighting reported at Hazwan, where the National Army, basically there's this group called the Syrian National Army, which is actually the former Free Syrian Army that was backed by the Turkish forces. So they have some positions around here as well. The Syrian National Army, which is previously the Free Syrian Army, which has already disintegrated. So they were attacking in the area of Hazwan, or rather, they have a clash with the Kurdish forces in this region over here. And over further south, further southeast, in the area here, near the coast, or rather not really exactly, the Jabhat al-Nusra, which is basically the Al-Qaeda, the evolution from Al-Qaeda. They actually launched some random shelling. There's 8 shellings that was reported, 5 in Idlib governorate. Idlib is actually within this region. This is Idlib city, and one in the Latakia governorate. Latakia city is here, so this in this region, as well as 2 in Hama governorate. So Hama, where is Hama? Actually, I'm not so familiar with. Let me check. Hama, Syria. So Hama is actually further south. So they are shelling maybe further south in this region, south of the Idlib region. So there is some random shelling. The exact location is not so clear, and I think it's not very important because this just random shelling. And so this is what happened. There is also in another case where there's a Syrian soldier that was killed by the Al-Fat al-Mubin, which is another terror group. And then in the position near the Al-Barik front line, I actually cannot find the Al-Barik front line yet, but the Syrian forces fired artillery shell at Binin's village, which is under control of the Syrian rebels. And so far no casualties are reported. As you can see, this area is very complicated. So just understand that this entire area here is all concentrated with various group of rebel forces and terrorist groups. And there is a security corridor. This is the Syrian side, this is the Russian side, and they actually do joint patrols. The further up north, this area here are all Turkish controlled, together with the Syrian National Army. So but generally speaking, of course, there is actually just Turkish control. So and over at Allepo itself is also very complicated. There is this enclave here, which is a majority Kurdish. They are allegedly being blockaded by the Syrian troops, and as a result, fuel, food, and gas was not able to enter the neighborhood, and for 9 days in a row. And the SDF has now warned that they will impose a siege on the regime-controlled areas of the city if this blockade do not stop. So very complicated, right, the situation. And moving further nearer to between Elbap and Manjid, there was actually shelling reported at Arima. This is actually Ukrainian forces shelling some probably SDF positions. And although Arima is actually in our mapping is under the Syrian control, but of course all these are just references. The situation on the ground is a lot more fluid than the map would suggest. And then over at the border region here, near this Kobani, you probably will heard of this very often if you have followed the Syrian war coverage. When the Americans were here, the Russians have rejected or refused to conduct the joint patrol with Turkey along the western side of Kobani. So in this region here, the Russian forces do not want to do joint patrol because of Turkish escalation in the region, and this escalation is actually over on the eastern side. They actually do bombardments on the eastern side, and the Russians are patrolling on the western side, and they just like, no, we're not going to do it anymore. And with all these things happening, before the increased bombardment, the US forces is reportedly evacuating the civilian elements from the Kobani region. Some of the military forces elements are still around. They are not numerous. But they actually move all the civilians away from this region here. Have been moved to Iraq. At least that's the rumor. And let's see what else. And moving on over to the Tamil region, there was the Turkish-backed faction, trying to attack the the village of El Kif, and this is actually controlled by the SDF, and they actually fought it out. The Turkish-backed forces then redrawn. Most likely is the SNA, the Syrian National Army. And what else? And then there's US bases here. They are actually doing the helping to secure the SDF, the Kurdish forces here. And well, in their patrol, they try to enter the Syrian controlled territory over here. So you can see this entire white area. This is exclusively controlled by the Syrian government. And when they are trying to cross into this village over here called the Kuwailit, or Kuwailat, depending on the language. So Kuwailit. And according to the SOHR, the Syrian observation humanitarian, I forgot already forgot what's the full name already. Anyway, let me check. The SOHR, I cannot remember what's the full name now. Syrian anyway, you guys know it, right? I'm sure you guys know it. So anyway, they tried to go through. There's a military patrol of 6 armored vehicles. Basically, these are not tanks. It's not even most likely it's just wheeled vehicles. They tried to pass through, but they were blocked by the checkpoint. The Syrian government checkpoint do not allow them to go through, so they have to change their route away from this town. As you can see, this entire area here is actually Syrian control. It's part of a major military base in this region here, and I will talk more about the breakdown of all these places in a separate video. So stay tuned for it. And over in this area, there's a drone strike reported south of Amuda. So Amuda is here. There's a SDF convoy that was struck by a Turkish drone strike. Reportedly, a few commanders may have been killed. The name was not specified. Eyewitnesses reported 2 rockets hitting the cars, and because of all this escalation from the Turkish side, the US bounced into action. They decided to do joint patrols with the SDF in the border region. So some of this is here, east of Kamishli. Kamishli is actually this border city over here. This is a very Turkish city. This is a Turkish city of I think it's called Nusaybin. This is Kamishli. So on the western side of Kamishli, they were reported the US forces joint patrol with SDF, and the joint patrols also is reported over at Catania, and also over here at Ain Diwa. Ain Diwa is actually on the very, very edge of Syria already, all the way at the most eastern part of Syria already. And there's another joint patrol that was reported over at Rumilan. So because in the American speech they call it El Rumilan, so Rumilan. And these are the few locations that was reported. There's joint patrols, and for the situation on the negotiations, the SDF in the meeting with the Russians, and I think probably also with the Syrians, the SDF refused to withdraw. Based on the Russian proposal to hand over the Syrian border regions with Turkey to the Assad's forces, which is the Syrian government forces, and withdraw 30 kilometers from the border. During a meeting at the Kamishli airport, which is actually here. The Kamishli airport is here, and it's happened on Friday, which is actually the 2nd of December. The SDF refused. So you can tell that the Russians are actually trying to appease probably a peace with Turkey, try to prevent war from happening, to prevent the thing from escalating. However, the Kurds are not willing to give up control of the territory over exclusively to the Syrian government. So, and on the 5th, there's another meeting. So the Russian aircraft was reportedly flying into Al-Kamishli airport again, and this time round there are Russian troops, and as well the delegation is there to actually to discuss with SDF again, because the Turkish are threatening to invade northern and eastern Syria, and so the talk is going through, and they are now trying to convince the SDF to withdraw the military forces, and they will be replaced by the Asayish internal security forces. So the Asayish is basically like police, but for the SDF side. So, but technically not the SDF, is more of the what do they call it? The Rojava. So basically the autonomous administration of the North and East Syria, the AANES, the ANES, no, the ANES, no, the ANES. So basically they are actually just called Rojavas. Rojava, just known as Rojava. Basically this entire area here. So this area which I didn't color is actually also under the Syrian SDF joint control. The Syrians actually hold all the way on the eastern side of the entire river. So the eastern side of this river is all mostly Kurdish controlled, with the government forces have access to this northern part. The southern part, this deeper yellow, is purely Rojava. So the Russians are now proposing that the SDF forces withdraw and be replaced by the Asayish, basically the police force of the Rojava, in another attempt to try to de-escalate the entire situation over here. And on the 5th of December, there was a car bomb explosion at Kamishli, targeting the SDF headquarters over at this city region. I'm not exactly sure about the exact location, but anyway, it's also not important. You just know that there's a car bomb exploding over here. So it's on the same day. Very very messy, very complicated country. And I covered all those. And let me see, what else did I miss? Okay, so over at the most eastern side of Syria, there was actually this report, this complaint, that local sources witnessed a convoy of oil tankers, 66 Syrian oil tankers, or rather just oil tankers, leaving the Syrian territory into Iraq. So at this border region here, so they were probably spotted around El Mahmadiyah, and they said that they go through an illegal crossing. This part here seems like a proper border crossing, so not sure, maybe they did not cross the custom area. So basically they crossed into Iraq, and they are accusing the US from stealing Syrian oil, and of course this is probably not the first instance. This has been probably ongoing for some time. And over in southern Syria, okay, so let's cover this first. On the 6th of December, the Syrian government, in their meeting with the SDF, or rather this Rojava, basically the government of this entire Kurdish autonomous region, the talk broke down because the Syrian government refused to recognize SDF as part of the Syrian army. So basically, what was said was the Syrian regime categorically refused to recognize the SDF existence within the regime's army. So this regime definitely is referring to the Syrian regime, which is the government, Syrian government. So they are probably trying to put SDF as part of the Syrian military, but the Syrian government did not want to recognize the SDF at all as part of their military, because it might be complicating the entire geopolitical situation here, because because the regime only willing to deal with the SDF as part of a local affiliate group in northeastern Syria, but not recognizing it as a military force of its own right. And this is actually to avoid Turkish pressure and threats to launch military operation targeting the SDF control. Because should the Syrians accept that the Kurdish forces are part of the Syrian army, then this might actually, you know, make Turkey target Syrian government forces as well. So maybe this is just something that they are trying to avoid. However, the meeting otherwise went pretty decently well. The government is ready to allow teaching in Turkish language within the Syrian curriculum, and also recognize some of the cultural rights of the Kurds in Syria. And the government insisted that the autonomous administration dissolve itself and work within the government local institution, for example, the municipalities. So they want peace with the Kurds, and but they want the Kurds to, you know, dissolve the government, their own government, and be part of the Syrian government. And in return, the Kurds will get the curriculum, the cultural rights, the language teaching, you know. So it's a deal they're trying to make, but the talk break down due to the situation, the status of the SDF. And further south, there's news coming out that the ISIS leader was killed in a security operation over here in Daraa, and it's actually exclusively dealt by the Syrian army along with some fighters from this city. So they killed the ISIS leader, and it was reported by the ISIS themselves, which is why this news came out. This actually happened in October, so 2 months ago. So but the news only just came out. And what else? So that's all from Syria. Over at Iraq, in the city near Mahmoud, there's actually a refugee camp. This area is a refugee camp, and there's actually a drone strike from the Turkish on the refugee camp, and it was claimed that the Kurdish Workers' Party, the PKK, is using the camp as a training base for its unit, and the PKK is the Kurds in Turkey, but this party, you know, this group is actually branded as terrorists in Turkey, and this operation is largely to deal with the Kurds, terrorists that is from Turkey basically. And so it actually have no respect for the Iraqi sovereignty, as you can see. So as a result, the Iraqis have announced plans on the 4th of December to strengthen their border security, and the spokesperson said that they will start to take measures to control the border with Iran and Turkey, and they will be sending reinforcement, weapons, equipment, and security personnel to make sure that the border is secured. And they want to make sure that their relationship with the neighboring countries are good, and they want to do whatever it can with the border security to secure the interests of both Iraq and the neighboring countries. So they also, you know, insisted that they will not allow Iraqi territory to be used to attack any other neighboring countries. So, you know, that might be some talk about maybe some cross-border issues, I guess. And they also, you know, elaborated that they have good cooperation with the Peshmerga, which is actually the Kurds of Iraq. So so that's the situation over here at Syria and Iraq. So this is the SITREP, and hopefully this is interesting to you, and do share in the comment what you think, and if you want me to continue to cover this, definitely I put in a lot of effort already, so probably I will regardless what you say, I will still cover it. And that's all. Please press the like button. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed. Check below. Have you subscribed yet? Not yet? Please press subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.